Okay, so what is evolution exactly, and how does all these different things, how do all those get created? Well, this is one common illustration of evolution, and honestly, this causes a lot of confusion because this is wrong. This is not what evolution is at all. You don't go from this little a small ape to a chimpanzee to a form of a human. It's like this. What it means is not that, as this shows, humans evolved from a chimpanzee. Humans and chimpanzees both evolved from what we call a common ancestor. That is an organism that lived long, long ago. At some point in history, chimpanzees and humans started to diverge, and two separate branches of the family tree were created. And you can imagine that this would happen when, say, two groups were physically separated, and one started living more on the ground because they lived, say, in more of a savanna environment, and the other lived more in the trees because they lived in more of a forest environment. You can see how suddenly, given different environments, different traits would have been beneficial. And over time, as those different beneficial traits passed on, the two populations would have become more and more different. That's how evolution happens. So humans, chimpanzees, and gorillas all have a common ancestor that was an ape somewhere way back here, millions of years ago. Along the human line of the tree, along this human branch, there have been other organisms that did not survive and have since gone extinct. And on all of these branches, there have been organisms that didn't survive to today and that went extinct. But as you can see from this, again, this is a phylogenetic tree showing the evolutionary relationships among organisms. Humans, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, all monkeys and prosimians all share a common ancestor. The more different the modern organisms are, the farther back that common ancestor is. When we look at a tree like this, the number of branches between organisms tells you how closely related they are. So bonobos and chimpanzees, a bonobo is just a different kind of chimpanzee. They share, there's only one branch between them. They are what we call sister species. They're very closely related. Chimpanzees and humans, there's 2 branches between us. Humans and gorillas, 2 branches. This branch is farther back, so we're a little less closely related to gorillas. We're a little less closely related to orangutans. Okay? So we're going to talk a lot more in detail about phylogenetic trees later, but that's essentially how you can read a phylogenetic tree. The x-axis going this way is time, or going horizontally, there guys, is time, okay? Going back to a common ancestor. Anytime you see 2 lines that come together like that, that's a common ancestor. Okay. Humans have a common ancestor with all primates. Now, evolution is a fact. I talked about this in the last video. And the fact is that populations change over time. Groups of organisms or species of organisms change over time. And the modern organisms are not exactly the same as the organisms farther back on this branch of the tree because we've been evolving. Even the human branch has changed. And one of the things we know has changed is, for example, the ability to digest lactose as an adult. We can actually track that, and I'll show you some of that a little bit later. We know that that is a recently evolved trait in modern humans. Now, natural selection is the theory that explains the law of evolution. And natural selection is actually a really simple theory. Some individuals are better at reproducing than other individuals. They pass on more of their DNA to the next generation, and the next generation has more of those beneficial traits that enabled these individuals to reproduce. Individuals that reproduce have what we call evolutionary fitness. And this is really an important term in biology. And it has a very, very specific meaning. A lot of times when we are just talking and we say fitness, we're talking about physical fitness, or perhaps specifically cardiovascular fitness. Like, how strong are you? How fast can you run a mile? Can you run a mile? Evolutionary fitness is a completely different thing. But people get it mixed up because we understand this concept of physical fitness so well. Evolutionary fitness has absolutely nothing to do with physical fitness. That's one thing I really need you to understand. Physical fitness has nothing to do with evolutionary fitness. Evolutionary fitness means the ability to pass on your genes. That is all. Literally nothing else. Just the ability to pass on your genes. You could be hideously ugly, incredibly weak, slow, but if you leave lots and lots of offspring, you have evolutionary fitness, even if you don't have physical fitness. Okay, very important. This is a very funny video about cuttlefish and an example of when small and weak is better. I'm going to post this separately so you can watch it. All right, so that's a basic primer on what evolution is and what it isn't. We're going to talk a lot about evolution all semester. For this next section of the video, we're going to talk about how we organize biodiversity, how we talk about groups of organisms, so that we can start to get familiar with how we talk about different things in biology.